The movie initiates with a terrified woman. She had witnessed something in the storage facility that left her utterly shocked. A feline belonging to the property owner had been savagely killed, and what was astonishing was that it wasn't the act of a human but rather a robot. The individual who engineered this robot was a scientist named Rob1n. His son had tragically died in an accident, and he was unable to manage the overwhelming grief. In remembrance of his son, he utilized his technical expertise to construct this robot, which he named after his son, Rob1n, which is also the title of the film now. He observed the robot's hand in motion and was both astonished and overjoyed. He embraced this robot, Rob1n, as though it were his own child. It appeared as if his life was once again brimming with joy. However, he was oblivious to the fact that this machine had begun to think independently, which could result in very unfortunate consequences. The robot had developed emotions and had killed the cat because it perceived that Adam's affection was being shared with the feline, which it did not appreciate. So, she removed the cat from the way so that Eden's love would be solely hers. The scene then shifts, and we see a boy named Leo who has been with a girl for the past 5 years, and they both like each other. Today, Leo proposes to her for marriage. His friend was quite happy, but she didn't know that Leo was heavily in debt and the creditors were keeping a constant watch on him. When his friend asked Leo about his work, he avoided the topic. He said, "I'm going to introduce you to a very close friend of mine." That friend was none other than Rob1n, who was their uncle. However, they both arrive very soon. During their conversation, Aiden mentioned that a few years ago, he had a road accident which weakened his memory. Because of this, he took quite some time to recognize Leo, even after Leo introduced himself. Due to his old age, he couldn't walk properly either. So, Leo's friend helped Aiden into the house, and all of this was being watched by the robot standing upstairs. Now Leo was sitting in one place looking at Aiden's pictures. Suddenly, he heard a loud noise from the window behind him. Surprised, he immediately went to check and saw behind the curtain a small child. He looked, but when he opened the door, there was no one there. When he stepped out of the room, he saw a strange figure sitting by the fireplace. Leo was quite surprised. Just then, his friend arrived, also looking at him in astonishment, and Rob1n came in too. He proudly announced that this was Rob1n, a robot he had created, and it was quite remarkable. He asked everyone to step outside and close the door to demonstrate Rob1n's special feature. When they knocked on the door 3 times and came back in, the robot had disappeared. Now it started to feel like there was someone else in the house, but the maid reassured that besides the 4 of us there was no one else. After a while, Aiden went to rest and the maid started talking to the 2 of them. She said, "I worry about him. Ever since his son passed away, his behavior has become quite strange and I care for him just like I do for the others." The next morning it was found out that the maid didn't show up for work. This was quite surprising because in all these years it was the first time she took a leave without informing. This worried them. Then they saw Rob1n, who had blood on his face, which was alarming. Yet, he felt a sense of fear while asking, so he took Rob1n to the warehouse under some pretext. When he examined the robot, he found pieces of the maid's clothes on it. Seeing this, Eden became very angry. He shouted at Rob1n, "Is this your doing? Did you kill the maid?" But Rob1n remained silent, and in that silence, Eden got his answer. He understood that it was all Rob1n's doing, so he decided to shut Rob1n down. In his anger, he removed its battery and left. However, he was surprised that the robot could still activate without a battery. That same night, while everyone was asleep, the house was shrouded in darkness, so Leo began to roam around the entire house because his aim was hidden in Aiden's house. He was looking for clues about the stash and money that he wanted to steal to pay off his debt. He searched thoroughly but found nothing, so he returned disappointed. The next morning, Aiden went to the warehouse to check on the robot, but to his surprise, the robot wasn't there. So, he returned home, and that's when he heard the sound of a piano coming from upstairs. When he proceeded to check, he observed the robot positioned in front of the mirror, blinking its eyes repeatedly. It appeared as though it was attempting to mimic human behavior. When Aiden examined it closely, he was utterly astonished. He was deeply troubled by the thought of how the robot was functioning without a battery and electrical power. That night, Leo wandered throughout the house once more in pursuit of the safe. This time, he ventured into the upstairs room where a box mysteriously opened on its own. Upon inspection, he discovered some old toys that Aiden's son used to play with. In addition to that, there was nothing valuable in there. Before he could move forward, Aiden came and caught Leo, explaining to him to stop all these things. After everything calmed down, Leo asked him about his son's death. Aiden said that he was out of town, and when he returned, he received the news of his son's death. Some people said he died in a fire, while others said he took his own life. But the truth is that the police have never been able to find out the reality. After the incident, Aiden's memory had also weakened. Aiden was always haunted by one thought. Yes, Rob1n really did die. He is still alive in some form. The next day, the police came to Rob1n's house. Actually, the maid's brother was very worried because his sister had been missing for 2 days, so they filed a complaint with the police. When the police questioned Add-on about it, he said he didn't know anything about it. The police said the maid was last seen in the storeroom of this house. She had called a taxi driver to go home, but the taxi driver left after waiting for a long time. But every time, Add-on would say that he didn't know anything because the police didn't find any evidence either. That's why they also left. But the maid's brother, who had been stealthily hiding outside the house, cautiously makes his way into the warehouse. He dials his sister's phone and the ringing sound emanates from within. Following the sound as he steps inside, he is utterly shocked by the scene before him, for his sister's body is lying there in a dreadful condition. Before he can fully grasp the situation, Rob1n the robot unexpectedly appears behind him. Terrified, her brother begins to call the police. Rob1n hurls a sharp iron grate at him, which also claims his life, and then silently goes and sits by the fireplace. Once again he came to him and asked, "Tell me, didn't you kill the maid?" But now the robot was quiet, just blinking its eyes. It then lifted a flame and wrote a word that caught Aiden's attention, and feeling a bit of relief, it left. However, Leo, who was standing by the door, overheard their conversation and came to read the word as well. Leo always had doubts about the death of Aiden's son, Rob1n. He found an old post related to the whole matter on the internet, which was a reporter's post mentioning an old party. W reached out to this reporter. When the reporter found out that Leo was Aiden's nephew, he didn't hesitate to tell the truth about the incident years ago. He truthfully disclosed every detail concerning the incident. It was the occasion of Rob1n's 11th birthday, for which an extravagant celebration was arranged. As a mischievous prank, he was confined in the basement for a brief period. After some time, he was released, but his demeanor had transformed considerably. He had become extremely dangerous. It appeared as though he was no longer the same child. Suddenly, in a frenzied state, he assaulted all the guests at the celebration. And everyone was killed except for Aiden and the reporter, who managed to survive somehow. When Robbie attacked his own mother as well. A projectile from behind ended Rob1n's life. The journalist discloses that it was not another individual but he himself who discharged the shot. Now this could damage Aidon's reputation, so to prevent this, he bribed the authorities to conceal the matter. Discovering the truth leaves Leo in utter disbelief. He couldn't fathom that all this could have transpired. At that moment, his companion enters and furiously shouts at Leo because she saw Leo's phone, which contained messages from creditors. In response, Leo explains that he was merely attempting to earn money for a brighter future, but instead he became ensnared in debt and we have one option: to steal some funds from Aiden's place. He assures his companion that once the debts are cleared, they'll marry and start a new life. As planned, Leo's friend quietly adds a sedative to Aiden's coffee that evening. Soon after, he falls into a deep sleep. That particular night, the law enforcement officers made their way back to Aiden's residence, and when the entrance did not open, they commenced investigating the vicinity. A female officer ventured into the basement, where the maid frequently went. She noticed a report with fiery eyes. She was extremely shocked. As she moved closer, a crouching robot thrust a sharp implement into her abdomen, causing the officer to writhe in excruciating pain and sit down. Then the robot administered a jolt of electricity to her body. This resulted in her dying in agony. Shortly afterward, another officer arrived. He enters the basement where he smells the burning of a human mask. When he looked with his torch, he saw the charred body of his partner in front of him. He was quite frightened. But before he could understand anything, a robot came from behind. It attacked the officer with a knife and then unleashed a flamethrower on his face, which also led to this officer's death right there. Meanwhile, Leo and his friend were searching the room for a cupboard and a safe. Leo's friend found the floor strange. She moved the ground and discovered a secret basement beneath, which made Leo very happy. At first, seeing this, Rose gets nervous, but then she follows him down. However, both of them know that the robot is watching everything. Once they get down, they see that there are a lot of liquor bottles, but Leo's attention is on more than just the alcohol. I was searching for the secure safe that might contain valuable items inside. Suddenly, I sensed someone behind me. I turned around, but there was no one present. Now, Leo proceeded forward, but his friend lingered to double-check who might be there. When she leaned forward and glanced back once more, there stood a robot covered in blood right in front of her. Witnessing this, she let out a scream and swiftly ran away, eventually reuniting with Leo. As they ran, they arrived at a location where their quest finally concluded because they discovered the safe lying before them. Seeing this, both were extremely delighted. The fear had ended, and now both of them moved forward happily. To open it, Leo remembered that Aiden used his son's birth date as the password. When he entered that password, the safe indeed opened. But what they saw was something they had never imagined because the safe was completely empty. There was neither any jewelry nor money. This made both of their faces drop. Seeing this, Leo's friend became sad because she realized that their lives were also in danger at the hands of the robot. Additionally, unfortunately, they didn't gain anything. She began to cry, but before they could do anything, an iron rod The rod pierced through her neck and she died right there. Seeing this, he felt very sorry, but there was no time to mourn her death. So Leo picked up a large rod and attacked the robot, but it was still functioning. Then the robot attacked Leo with a piece of glass, causing him to lose consciousness. When he regained consciousness, he found himself tied to a chair. It was the same basement where Rob1n had once been held. Then the robot started speaking. Surprisingly, in its voice was the shadow of Rob1n's soul, and it began to recount its childhood. How my mother would punish me for the smallest of things. She used to punish for every lie and mischief. Now the robot asks Leo why he came to Aiden's house, what his purpose was. W lies, saying he just came to meet them casually. Hearing this, the robot punishes him with a nail gun. After receiving punishment a second time, Leo still doesn't tell the truth and suffers pain again. Then, the third time when he couldn't bear the pain, he finally confessed everything. He says, yes, I am not really Aiden's nephew, I just took advantage of his weak memory to sneak into his house and steal money. Now people, he was experiencing intense guilt. He was holding himself accountable for his friend's untimely demise. He began cutting through his rope with a sharp shard. The robot still remained skeptical of his statements. Just as it advanced to administer punishment, he swiftly liberated himself from the rope and stood upright. He shoved the robot, causing it to topple, and was on the verge of finishing it off with the nail gun when a shot rang out from behind, leading to his death. In truth, Aiden had come to the realization of everything, that his son's spirit had entirely fused with the robot. Consequently, he couldn't allow anyone to take his son away. He couldn't allow anyone to take him to any other place. Out of the fear that someone might separate him from his son once more, he diligently repairs the robot to its original condition. Now, this robot entirely begins a new existence in the form of his son. If anyone attempts to come between them or tries to harm the robot, this perilous robot and the deranged man will not spare them. And with this, the narrative of the film concludes.